How we doing, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of 5 Pops Funko Should Make. I am your host, Big Maccabee Pop Ginger, and in this one we are going to be focusing on Adam Sandler movies. Now, Adam Sandler, one of the funniest comedic actors out there in the industry. I'm a big fan, and as a lot of people will know, in recent times, about the last 6 months, there have been a number of Adam Sandler pops being released. So we've had a few from Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and possibly some others. At this moment in time, my brain is frazzled. But I came up with 5 more ideas that I think could be added to the line. So, what's coming in at number 1? Let's find out. So, coming in at number 1, it's just a very basic, straightforward, generic one for Little Nicky, which is basically just to have Little Nicky dressed in his big puffy jacket, the black hair, but just for the added, the added fun effect. And because obviously I know a lot of people are fans of, having little pets and things that are added on as little extras. You'd have to have the bulldog Beefy that's helping him throughout his entire mission. I think that would make for a fantastic choice. Something common. It's obviously not going to be something that's going to gain massively in value, but I think just for people out there who are just fans of Adam Sandler in general, that would be a pretty decent little option to add into the current line as it runs. So yeah, that is the first option I was thinking of. Just throwing it out there. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any adaptations to Little Nicky that you would go with. And let's see what's going on with number 2. So, for number 2, we are going to the first grown-ups film. Now, in this film, for anyone that's not familiar with it, just a quick backstory. 5 friends, they were all on a basketball team as children. The only team their coach ever won. Or the coach had a winning team on, should I say. So basically, when they get older, sadly the coach passes away, and they come together and spend a weekend together commemorating the fella. So for this one, at one point, they go back to something they used to do as kids, which was something called arrow roulette, in which they would fire an arrow into the air, and the last person to leave the circle was the winner.
Let's cheer him up. How would we cheer Robbie up in the old days? A little arrow roulette?
Whoa.
Did we really do that?
Single stupidest thing we ever did.
It was the craziest.
Moronic.
Asinine.
I can't believe we're doing this.
Now, in this case, Robbie, played by Rob Schneider, was the one who won the game. However, it came at a cost, as he ended up with an arrow through his foot. And I think that specific moment would make for a great Funko Pop by just literally having Robbie with the arrow sticking out of his foot. Now, originally I was considering a possible movement where you got all 5 guys together, 4 of them carrying him, but then I thought, I don't know how you'd be able to display that without it looking all clumsy, having that much in one tight space. So I think just for a straightforward common for this series, you could have Robbie with the arrow in his foot. Just an idea, just something to throw out there. So, let's get on to number 3. So, for number 3, I had a bit of an idea involving Shaquille O'Neal's performance. He seems to have a fair few Adam Sandler films under his belt. And so in this one, because we are on to Grown Ups 2 now, he's playing a police officer. Now, I think, as I said, I think I have a good idea for common and chase options for this. So for the common, we can have him just wearing the police uniform. I would definitely say I would have to make this a 6-inch, because he's massively taller than pretty much every single other person in this movie. So it would definitely have to be a 6-inch. So yeah, just the full police uniform. And then for a chase adaptation, I have 2 ideas. So the first one, we could either have him when he's being car washed, which for anyone that doesn't know, I would recommend watching the film, but basically there's a scene where they go to a car wash, and when some of the cars are being cleaned, it gets to a point where you've got Shaq in one of the bays where the cars are supposed to be being washed, being cleaned by cheerleaders, which is really funny. And then his partner gets involved and it starts to get a little weird, but it's interesting. So that was my first Chase adaptation. The second other one is more when at the end of, towards the end of the movie, should I say, Lenny, played by Adam Sandler, is having a end of summer or start of summer house party. And so, you know, it's the end of school and he's having a massive party. Everyone's getting dressed up. And it gets to a point halfway through the night where the two police officers, for whatever reason, are like wearing skis, shooting guns, and jumping into the pool.
Oh, nobody is my brother! Oh, my brain! My brain!
So I think something like that could be a possible chase. Personally, for me, I think the car wash one would be a better option, but you never know. Let me know down below what you think of the two chase options. See if something's jiving for yourself. But anyhow, on to number 4. Okay, so for my number 4 option, we are sticking with Grown Ups 2 yet again. And for this one, I came up with like a 5-pack option. And it's a kind of idea that I've ran in the past a couple of times, as well as things that have already been done throughout a whole lot of Funko Pop lines, which is basically like a Halloween edition 5-pack. Now, obviously, this one wouldn't need to be Halloween edition because of the setting in the movie. However, it's basically just recreations of 4 of the 5 main characters plus an extra, which I'll explain in a second, in the costumes that we're wearing for the party. So, the first one we would have to have is Adam Sandler's character Lenny, dressed as Bruce Springsteen. With the next one being Kevin James' character, I believe it was Eric. Eric, dressed as Meatloaf. Third one being Kurt, played by Chris. I was about to say Chris Tucker, then it's not. It's Chris Rock. My apologies. And he was dressed as Prince, I believe. Yeah, it was Prince, because there was a funny moment where someone else was dressed as him as well. The fourth character and the fifth one is going to be Marcus, played by David Spade, and his son, who the actor who plays him is currently slipping my mind, but I'll add the name in. And they were dressed as Hall & Oates. So I think you could have a fun little 5-pack. And just have those as the 5 main costumes and the 5 main varieties put out there to work with. That one I was struggling with, because I was struggling to figure out a good way to do something like that, because I liked the way that they all looked, but I didn't want it to be too forced with the whole every time someone's wearing a costume in a movie thing, make a pop of it. But I don't know. I think with Grown Ups 2 being one of my favourite Adam Sandler movies, I don't know, it holds a special place in my heart. That's just how it is. Anyhow, let's move on to the 5th and final idea of this episode. Okay, so for the 5th and final idea of the episode, we have to put in a movie moment. That's just what I do. And for this one, we're going to go with 50 First Dates. Now, for this one, I think there are a number of options, so no doubt this won't be the first. It will be first, but it won't be the last Adam Sandler or Adam Sandler movies episode to come onto the channel. Pardon me. But for this particular one, this movie moment, I was thinking of the diner scene. Now, there's a few times that the diner scene replays, because obviously for anyone that's seen this movie, it knows it centres around Drew Barrymore having a character who I believe was in a car crash, which then leads to like a short-term memory. So every time she wakes up, she's forgotten everything that's happened to her since a certain period. Henceforth why the title of 50 First Dates. Now, there's a couple of times where she's sitting in the diner and Adam Sandler's character comes over and she's usually building something with food. So there are two options, I think. Could be a fun little movie moment where they're in the diner with the food on the table. We could either have the onion ring volcano that features in some of the scenes, or, and I think this is probably a better idea for me because you might even be able to get a little movement to it depending on how you develop it, you could have the Waffle House that she builds in the centre. I just think that'd be a nice little moment, and I think if you were going to focus on something from that particular movie, that would be the ideal one to go with for now. But as I say, there are plenty of characters and plenty of things in that movie that I reckon could make for some fun pops. So stay tuned for a future video where no doubt I will eventually cover them. But yes, that's everything I had at this moment in time. I wish I'd planned this a little better because I was trying to remember half what my ideas were. Luckily I wrote them down. But that is the 5 ideas I have for you in this episode. Hopefully the next one's better. Hopefully you liked at least some of these ideas. And feel free, if you could think of some ideas you'd like to see from Adam Sandler pops, Adam Sandler movies, that kind of thing, feel free to drop them down below. And if I include them in a future video, I'll make sure full credit for that idea goes to yourself. So folks, that's everything I have for you on this occasion. So as always, I want you to stay safe, have a good day, and of course, live that pop fanatic life. And I'll see you in a bit.